Hello. Hello. How are you doing? Hi Alex. And hello to everybody else that's here. Hello Matt. Hello. Hello. Today we are... Oh, Tessa. Welcome. Today we are reading some more stories. Some more Lovecraft horror stories. As you might know by now, he is my favorite writer. Doesn't tell me I should bring a flashlight. Well, you should. Because today we're going to explore the depths of the sea and other weird and scary dark places. Hello. As you know at this point, I am a big fan of Lovecraft, and I intend to read some more stories. Hopefully a couple like last time, but I'm afraid we'll get some longer ones. How are you doing, by the way? I hope you're doing fine. I had a great day, although I got cooked up with some IRL stuff and I couldn't stream in the afternoon. So I changed the schedule up a bit and I decided the best thing to do would be to stream in the evening, some more ASMR. I'll be ready for tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm gonna play Overwatch. I'm gonna play ASMR Overwatch. It's gonna be fun. Sound muted, make ready keyboard sounds, my flaming abilities. I am very good at flaming. I will flame gently though, and one thing about me playing Overwatch is that I get angry, but then I laugh about it. I don't really think the things that I say, like, well, yeah, sometimes maybe if someone is playing badly, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this healer is awful. Come on, man. But that's about it. Like, I'm not that huge toxic player, but you know, I don't usually flame much. That's the truth. But I thought I could let my bad side come out for a cool sort of roleplay, which isn't really roleplay because I'm just like that sometimes. Overwatch ASMR gameplay. Gently flame equals the slowly despair of the eternal doom, basically. I have a lot of creative insults though. I usually flame my friends. I want that to be clear as well. I do not flame strangers. But I'll do. You'll see me being not that nice for the roleplay. It's a toxic experience for those that haven't played Overwatch, so you can understand what we have to go through each game, except I'm the one that will be toxic. Also, I won't talk in voice chat, because at least I have the how is it called? Wait, I'm not that much of a bitch. If I have to flame, I'll keep it to myself, so I don't hurt other people's feelings, you know. But enough with each other. I think you're all here for a horror story, and I will give you a horror story. We're at page 14 of the book out of 350, and today's first story is Facts Concerning the Late Arthur Jermyn and his family. Life is a hideous thing. Let me know if the background music is too high in volume, please. Let me know if you can hear me over the music, and if it's too loud, I'll turn it down a little bit. I think I'll do just a tiny bit. Okay. Life is a hideous thing, and from the background behind what we know of it appear demonical hints of truth, which make it sometimes a thousandfold more hideous. Science, already oppressive with its shocking revelation, will perhaps be the ultimate exterminator of our human species, if separate species would be, for its reserve on unguessed horrors could never be born by mortal brains if loosed upon the world. So I tried to place the mic in a different position, so let me know if it works better like this. If we knew what we are, we should do as Sir Arthur Jeremy did. And Arthur Jeremy soaked himself in oil and set fire to his clothing one night. No one placed the charred fragments in an urn or set a memorial to him who had been, for certain papers and a certain boxed object were found which made men wish to forget. Some who knew him do not admit that he ever existed. Arthur Jermyn went out on the moor and burned himself after seeing the boxed object, which had come from Africa. It was this object, and not his peculiar personal appearance, which made him end his life. Many would have disliked to live if possessed of the peculiar features of Arthur Jermyn, but he had been a poet and scholar and had not minded. Learning was in his blood, for his great-grandfather, Sir Robert Jermyn, PT, had been an anthropologist of note, whilst his great-great-great-grandfather, Sir Wade Jermyn, was one of the earliest explorers of the Congo region, and had written eruditely of its tribes, animals, and supposed antiquities. Indeed, old Sir Wade had possessed an intellectual zeal amount to almost to a mania. His bizarre conjectures on the prehistoric white Congolese civilization earning him much ridicule when his book Observations on the Several Parts of Africa was published. In 1765, this fearless explorer had been placed in a madhouse at Huntington. Madness was all in the Germans, and people were glad there were not many of them. The line put forth no branches, and Arthur was the last of it. If he had not been, one cannot say what he would have done when the object came. The Germans never seemed to look quite right. Something was amiss, though Arthur was the worst, and the old family portraits him in German house should find faces enough before Sir Wade's time. Certainly, the madness began with Sir Wade, whose wild stories of Africa were at once the delight and terror of his few friends. It issued in his collection of trophies and specimens, which were not such as a normal man would accumulate and reserve, and appeared strikingly in the oriental seclusion in which he kept his wife. The latter, he had said, was the daughter of a Portuguese trader whom he had met in Africa, and in like English ways. She, with an infant son born in Africa, had accompanied him back for the second and longest of his trips, and had gone with him on the third and last, never returning. No one had ever seen her closely, not even the servants, for her disposition had been violent and singular. During her brief stay at German House, she occupied a remote wing, and was waited on by her husband alone. Sir Wade was, indeed, most peculiar in his solicitude for his family, for when he returned to Africa, he would permit no one to care for his young son, save a loathsome black woman from Guinea. Upon coming back, after the death of Lady Jermyn, he himself assumed complete care of the boy. But he was the talk of Sir Wade, especially when in his cups, which chiefly led his friends to deem him mad. In a rational age like the 18th century, it was unwise for a man of learning to talk about wild sights and strange scenes under a Congo moon, of the gigantic walls and pillars of a forgotten city, crumbling and vine-grown, and of damp, silent stone steps leading interminably down into the darkness of abysmal treasure vaults and inconceivable catacombs. Especially was it unwise to rave of the living things that might haunt such a place, of creatures half of the jungle and half of the impiously aged city, fabulous creatures which even a Pliny might describe with skepticism. Things that might have sprung up after great apes had overrun the dying city with the walls and the pillars, the vaults and the weird carvings. Yet, after he came home for the last time, Sir Wade would speak of such matters with a shudderingly uncanny zest, mostly after his third glass at a knight's head, boasting of what he had found in the jungle and of how he had dwelt among terrible ruins known only to him. And finally, he had spoken of the living things in such a manner that he was taken to the madhouse. He had soon little regret when shut into the barred room at Huntingdon, for his mind moved curiously. Ever since his son had commenced to grow out of infancy, he had liked his home less and less, till at last he had seemed to dread it. The Knight's Head had been his headquarters, and when he was confined, he expressed some vague gratitude, as if for protection. 3 years later, he died. Okay, let me grab a sip of water. Just a little tiny sip of water. Where's my piece of paper? Okay, to mark the page. Wade Jermyn's son Philip was a highly peculiar person. Despite a strong physical resemblance to his father, his appearance and conduct were in many particulars so coarse that he was universally shunned. Though he did not inherit the madness which was feared by some, he was densely stupid and given to brief periods of uncontrollable violence. In frame he was small, but intensely powerful, and was of incredible agility. 12 years after succeeding to his title, he married the daughter of his gamekeeper, a person said to be of gypsy extraction. But before his son was born, joined the navy as a common sailor, completing the general disgust which his habits and mésalliance had begun. After the close of the American War, he was heard of as a sailor on a merchantman in the African trade, having a kind of reputation for feats of strength and climbing, but finally disappearing one night as his ship lay off the Congo coast. In the son of Sir Philip Jermyn, the now accepted family peculiarity took a strange and fatal turn. Tall and fairly handsome, with a sort of weird Eastern grace. Despite certain slight oddities of proportion, Robert Jermyn began life as a scholar and investigator. My camera. Okay, let me just set it. It was he who first studied scientifically the vast collection of relics which his mad grandfather had brought from Africa. And who made the family name as celebrated in ethnology as in exploration. In 1815, Sir Robert married a daughter of the servant Viscount Brightholm and was subsequently blessed with 3 children, the eldest and youngest of whom were never publicly seen on account of deformities in mind and body. Saddened by these family misfortunes, the scientist sought relief in work and made 2 long expeditions in the interior of Africa in 1849. Wait, there was a point. In 1849, his second son, Neville, a singularly repellent person who seemed to combine the surliness of Philip Jermyn with the hauteur of the Brightholms, ran away with a vil courtesan, but was pardoned upon his return in the following year. He came back to Jermyn House, a widower with an infant son, Alfred, who was one day to be the father of Arthur Jermyn. Friends say that it was a series of griefs which unhinged the mind of Sir Robert Jermyn, yet it was probably merely a bit of African folklore which caused the disaster. The elderly scholar had been collecting legends of the Unga tribes near the field of his grandfathers and his own explorations, hoping in some way to account for Sir Wade's wild tales of a lost city peopled by strange hybrid creatures. A certain consistency in the strange papers of his ancestor suggested that the madman's imagination might have been stimulated by native myths. On October 19, 1852, the explorer Samuel Seaton called at Jermyn House with a manuscript of notes collected among the Ungas, believing that certain legends of a great city of white apes ruled by a white god might prove valuable to the ethnologist. In this conversation, he probably supplied many additional details, the nature of which will never be known, since a hideous series of tragedies suddenly burst into being. When Sir Robert Jermyn emerged from his library, he left behind the strangled corpse of the explorer, and before he could be restrained, had put an end to all 3 of his children. The 2 who were never seen, and the son who had run away. Neville Jermyn died in the successful defense of his own 2-year-old son, who had apparently been included in the old man's medley murderous scheme. Sir Robert himself, after repeated attempts at suicide and the stubborn refusal to utter any articulate sound, died of apoplexy in the 2nd year of his confinement. Sir Alfred Jermyn was a baronet before his 4th birthday, but his tastes never matched his title. At 20, he had joined a band of musical performers, and at 36 had deserted his wife and child to travel within an itinerant American circus. His end was very revolting. Among the animals in the exhibitions with which he traveled was a huge bull gorilla of lighter color than the average, a surprisingly tractable beast of much popularity with the performers. With this gorilla, Alfred Jermyn was singularly fascinated, and on many occasions the two would eye each other for long periods through the intervening bars. Eventually, Jermyn asked and obtained permission to train the animal, astonishing audiences and fellow performers alike with his success. One morning in Chicago, as the gorilla and Alfred Jermyn were rehearsing an exceedingly clever boxing match, the former delivered a blow of more than usual force, hurting both the body and dignity of the amateur trainer. Of what followed, members of the greatest show on earth do not like to speak. They did not expect to hear Sir Alfred Jermyn emit a shrill, inhuman scream, or to see him seize his clumsy antagonist with both hands, dash it to the floor of the cage, and bite fiendishly at its hairy throat. The gorilla was off its guard, but not for long, and before anything could be done by the regular trainer, the body, which had belonged to a baronet, was past recognition. Hello, welcome. Hi Kafuri, hi Visif. We are reading Lovecraft tonight. Chapter 2 of this short story. It's better to call it part 2 actually. So there are 2 chapters, which are very good parts at this point. Arthur Jermyn was the son of Sir Alfred Jermyn and a musical singer of unknown origin. When the husband and father deserted his family, the mother took the child to Jermyn House, where there was none left to object their presence. She was not without notions of what a nobleman's dignity should be, and saw to it that her son received the best education which limited money could provide. Oh, thank you for reminding me to drink. I'm here to sleep again. I'm glad to see you, and I hope I'll be able to make you sleep or fall into madness with me.